All right, welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we are digging into something fascinating, the traits that seem to predict who ends up with top-tier financial success. But look, this isn't just going to be another boring checklist. We're going way deeper than that. We're going to uncover the fundamental mindset, the thinking that actually drives the actions of the world's most successful people. So, let's dive in.
So let me ask you something right off the bat. Which group do you want to be in? And just so we're clear, this isn't really about the money itself. It's a question about character. It's about the internal operating system you choose to run your life on. It really comes down to consciously deciding which path you're going to walk.
Okay, just to put a number on it, research from the Federal Reserve shows that the average net worth for someone in the top 1% is just over $11 million. Whoa. But listen, don't get fixated on that number. Seriously, that isn't the goal, it's the result. It's the outcome of a very specific way of thinking and acting, and that's exactly what we're about to break down.
So, where does this all start? Well, at the heart of it, there's this fundamental choice you have to make between two completely opposite mindsets. Literally, every financial outcome, every decision, every single action, it all starts right here. It starts with the path you choose and the lens you see the world through. Yeah, these two paths, they represent two totally different ways of looking at everything. The scarcity path, which, let's be honest, is where most people live, sees life as a zero-sum game. You know the idea. The pie is only so big, so for you to get a bigger slice, someone else has to get a smaller one. But the abundance path, that's completely different. It sees endless opportunity. It sees a world where you can just bake more pies, where new value can always be created for everyone.
And that scarcity path, it's just riddled with what psychologists call cognitive distortions. Basically, thinking traps. You know what I'm talking about. Stuff like emotional reasoning, where you think, well, I feel anxious, so something terrible must be about to happen. Or catastrophizing, where your mind immediately jumps to the absolute worst-case scenario. And what do these traps do? They paralyze you. They keep you from taking any action at all.
You know, this difference in mindset, it actually reveals itself in the words we choose to use every day. Someone stuck on that scarcity path, they'll talk about costs and employees, but switch over to an abundance mindset and suddenly those are investments, and that's your team. It might seem like a small thing, maybe a little subtle, but this isn't just about sounding fancy. It's not semantics. It fundamentally changes how you see and interact with your world.
Okay, so let's say you do it. You choose the path of abundance. What happens next? Well, certain behaviors just naturally start to emerge. These traits we're about to go through, they aren't things you have to force or fake. They are the actions that flow directly from that one foundational choice you made. Let's see how this whole thing builds.
All right, let's jump into the first set of traits. These are all about one thing: action. They're what form the bridge between just having an idea in your head and actually creating real-world value with it.
First up, speed. It's all about moving with incredible speed. The top 1% work to shrink the time between having an idea and actually doing something about it. And why is that so important? Because moving fast lets you fail faster, which also means you succeed faster. While everyone else is stuck in analysis paralysis, just thinking and planning, you're already out there gathering real-world data and moving on to the next version.
Next, you have to do things differently. I mean, think about it. It's just simple math, right? You can't end up in the top 1% by doing exactly what the other 99% are doing. It's tough, though, because there's this powerful psychological pull. They call it the bandwagon effect that makes us want to follow the crowd. But real innovation, the big stuff, it almost never comes from consensus. True breakthroughs demand that you take a unique and, yeah, sometimes pretty lonely path.
All right, trait number 3. Warren Buffett has this great line where he says, the absolute best hedge against inflation is your own earning power. And that's exactly what this is about. It's about building high-value, actionable skills. And I mean skills that get stuff done, like copywriting, sales, learning how to close deals. Things that directly solve a problem that someone somewhere will gladly pay to have fixed. That becomes your personal economic fortress.
Number 4 is about always looking for opportunities. It's like the wealthy put on a pair of opportunity sunglasses every morning. They are constantly, actively scanning the world around them, not just seeing problems, but looking for the opportunities that are hidden inside of those problems. They don't just sit around and wait for luck to strike. No way. They go out and create their own luck by relentlessly hunting for ways to create value. Trait 5 is all about relentless delegation, and it's powered by the 80-20 rule. You might know it as the Pareto principle, and it is an absolute game changer. It basically says that for many things, about 80% of your results will come from just 20% of your effort. The top 1% are masters at this. They identify that critical, high-impact 20% of their work, and then they delegate the other 80% of the tasks. Why? Because it frees up their time and their focus for the very few activities that truly drive massive impact.
Okay, so now we're going to shift gears. We've talked about the external actions. Now let's talk about the internal traits. This is the inner game. And if that action blueprint we just covered is the engine, then these next traits, well, they're the high-octane fuel that keeps that engine running full throttle for the long haul.
Okay, this next one it's really counterintuitive. Get ready for it. What if that nagging feeling of insecurity, that little voice telling you you're an imposter? What if that isn't a weakness? In fact, some research shows that people with a bit less self-confidence can actually end up being more successful. Why? Because they're always working to improve. They use that feeling of discomfort as fuel for the fire.
And check out this story. It's just amazing. The author Neil Gaiman tells this story about being at some big, fancy event, feeling totally out of place, like he didn't belong. And then he gets into a conversation with an older gentleman who turns out to be Neil Armstrong. Yes, that Neil Armstrong, the first man on the moon. And Armstrong confesses to Gaiman that he feels the exact same way at these things.
Just think about that for a second. If the first man to walk on the moon felt like an imposter, then maybe, just maybe, that feeling isn't a signal that you're a failure. Maybe it's a signal that you're in the learning zone. It's a sign that you're pushing your boundaries and you're actually growing. Discomfort, it turns out, is the price you pay for admission to the Growth Club. Which brings us to number 7, always be learning. The most successful people are perpetual students. Just look at this comparison. The average CEO reads something like 60 books a year. The average person? About 12. And look, this isn't about collecting trivia facts. It's about staying humble, staying curious, and constantly upgrading the software in your brain. Because the moment you think you know it all, that's the moment you stop growing. Period. Okay, we've got 2 final connected traits that really fuel this whole inner game. Number 8 is exercising your body. Building physical toughness through exercise directly builds mental toughness. The discipline in one area just spills over into the other. And number 9, listen more than you talk. I mean, there's a reason we have 2 ears and only 1 mouth, right? As Richard Branson says, nobody learned anything by hearing themselves speak. Listening is how you gather all the intel you need to grow. All right, so as we start to wrap this all up, let's bring it right back to the one core idea that holds all of these traits together.
This right here, this is the key takeaway. If you remember nothing else, remember this. You can't just adopt these traits like a costume. You can't fake it. It's an inside-out job, through and through. You have to make that conscious, deliberate choice to shift your entire mindset from one of scarcity to one of abundance. And once you make that fundamental shift deep down, these 10 traits, they stop being things you do and they become a natural expression of who you are.
And so, that leaves us with one final big question to think about. When all is said and done, it's not really about how much you can accumulate, but how much you can contribute. So as you move forward from here, think about the path you're on. Is it building a life that just consumes, or one that truly contributes something of value? The choice, as always, is yours.